Welcome to C-Suite Scale, where executive minds unpack the real stories behind business growth. Today I am joined by Bret Schneider, who is the owner of Wow Windowboxes. Welcome, Bret. How are you?
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. Good to have you. Well, I'm so excited to learn about you and your company today. Why don't you just kind of give a brief background about what Wow Windowboxes does?
Sure. Well, we're a company, a seasonal company, so we change, we plant and build, plant, and irrigate window boxes as a broad overview. And then the majority of the company is changing the flowers every season. So we go out and, put in a new fresh arrangement for spring, summer, fall, winter.
Okay, awesome. That's really exciting. How'd you get into that?
Actually, it was my mother's idea. She came up with the idea like 16 years ago. As a way to make money to buy window boxes. So back then, there was this company called Flower Framers that made window boxes out of fiberglass and stuff like that. And she really wanted those window boxes for her house, but they were expensive. And so she thought, well, if I sell or if I plant a few window boxes in my neighborhood, like for money, then I can save up enough money to buy these window boxes. And that's what she did. And then there turned out to be more of a demand for this than just that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I wouldn't have thought about that, but I mean, I'm sure that there is a pretty strong demand for it. Would you say that there's like a target market? Is it mainly like residential houses, apartment complexes that you service, or kind of just all of the above?
It's kind of all of the above. We right now our mix is about 20% commercial, 80% residential. But that's kind of by design because when we were first starting out, we didn't have a lot of money, and so I was always afraid to have a huge client that could just leave us and kind of bankrupt us. So we really focused on the residential side a lot more than we probably did the commercial. And even like in the very beginning, we didn't really take on any commercial. We strictly called ourselves a residential service. And then, you know, it ended up being that a lot of our clients had companies or vice versa or whatever. And so, they were asking us to service their business. So that's kind of how we ended up getting into the commercial side. It wasn't really anything that we wanted to do, but when we were asked to do it, it made sense.
That's good. That's good. I'm really glad to hear that the market kind of dictated the direction of your company because that's honestly a lot easier than the opposite of that.
Right, right.
hmm Well, cool. And so, is anyone else doing this, or is it just really, your company?
There's one other company here in Cincinnati that they do the plantings. They don't build the window boxes. They hire somebody else to install them and even another person to irrigate them. So they kind of focus on the plantings of it. But we're the only one that I know of that build, paint, and irrigate all the boxes and like kind of offer that seasonal replanting. There's another company in Pittsburgh. They're like a landscape company and they'll do planting, but that's really about it. That's the in the whole country, those are all we've found.
Wow, that's amazing. So you are able to service this nationwide then?
So we just started selling franchises. So that's kind of been one of our big, growth plans over the past, I don't know, decade. We've been trying to set up and get ready for that. And I'm happy to announce we finally have done that. We have four franchisees now, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Um, with a lot more to come. We've got a lot more people, you know, uh, interested in doing the discovery day process and going through that whole process. So you can expect to see us in almost all the cities eventually.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what does it look like for a franchisee that's looking to invest in this type of a company?
Well, I mean, it's a $60,000 per territory investment, and then they have to buy the trucks and the outfits and stuff like that. So an outfit the truck. Sorry. We expect that to be anywhere, whether they're buying the truck or leasing it, but to be between like 180 to 230,000, somewhere around there. Uh, and then they get their territory, and then we'll be supporting them on our side with the marketing and all the sales help, and we have a custom built out Salesforce CRM that totally routes and does all that stuff for us here. So it's pretty good, pretty robust plan.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. That's super exciting. And so you mentioned a little bit about like how you go to market and everything. What is your advertising and what does that look like for you in the basically the main hub, but then also for those franchisees?
Sure. So we really kind of push like a grassroots marketing almost. We don't really use I mean, of course, we still use our traditional, Facebook, Google, uh, those type of traditional medias. But really, we donate a lot to different galas and charity events. That does two things for us. It gets us in front of, the right crowd. So we're always trying to go after probably the top 10% of income earners in the city. Um, and then, so if we donate like a 6 or 12 foot package, we're donating the actual boxes, then the seasonal planting for a year, and then the irrigation. So it allows us to kind of be in front of those people. It allows us to get into a new neighborhood that we, might not have been in. And then when people win something like that, they're, whatever they win, they're just excited. And so they're telling everybody. And then, they'll show off, our products when people come over or when people are like walking the dogs or whatever in the evening. People ask about it. So, that's kind of been really effective for us. And it's not really a normal traditional way, I guess. We also do a lot of home and garden shows and flower shows. Some kind of more, I guess, untraditional or non-traditional ways, I guess, would be like we do a lot of juried art fairs and things like that, which you wouldn't think that that would be necessarily screaming wow window boxes or holiday markets or boat shows and things like that. But that's generally where our customers are. If they can afford window boxes, they probably can afford a boat, or they're probably buying artwork, and things like that. So we kind of help them navigate that and work out for their city, which one of those events would probably be the best for them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, what would you say like you said the top 10%. And so what does
Mhm.
that look like as far as like an average size of like cost to that customer for something like this?
Yeah, so the first initial investment is probably like $2,500, and that's the boxes, the first season of planting, and then the irrigation. And then after that, it's about 450 a season. And so our average customer has about 10 feet of window boxes, so that's kind of where that comes from.
Cool, very good. And so this, you said at the beginning that this is like kind of a seasonal, but then it does seem like, as we talked, I mean, you're able to service people every like 365 days of the year. Is that pretty accurate?
I mean, there's always something to be done here. Uh, but yeah, so what we do is, each planting season is about 8 weeks. And then in between planting seasons, that's kind of when we're taking on new clients, we're building new boxes and installing them and things like that. So we'll go into this planting season and it'll be kind of all hands on deck, changing out all the flowers. We service about 2,100 clients a season. So it's a pretty massive undertaking to get all of that changed out into the next seasonal arrangement. So once that's done, then we kind of move on to, taking on new clients, like I said, building and installing all the boxes and things like that, and kind of getting prepped for the next season.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And so tell me about like kind of just your team. How big is your team and how did you scale to getting to your large team at the moment?
There are 36 people on the team, maybe give or take a few. But yeah, it just kind of kept growing. Like we kept needing more and more and more teammates or truck routes, as people wanted us. So we just had to keep doing it. We were intentional staffing up the office, and I really think that we're probably overstaffed right now. But that's because we're building for this franchisee and like hoping, we need to support them as they go forward. So, right now we have somebody for onboarding, we have somebody for marketing, IT, training. We have a whole person just dedicated to training, which actually works out really well because they get to focus on training the people here as well as the franchises. So we can kind of maintain that, uh, product quality that is really kind of what the backbone of our company is. But I'm trying to think, we have people in charge of the warehouse and watering, and so yeah. But each truck has two people on it at all times because we like to keep that for safety and things like that.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Awesome. And so, what would you say would be one of the biggest strategies that you've navigated through that's contributed to your growth?
Hmm. Um, our biggest strategy, like are you talking in terms of a marketing strategy or just kind of overall kind of thing?
Overall, anything that you've had to navigate through that got
Yeah.
you from, A to B.
I think that the most consistent thing, or I guess the thing that I would think would be what drives our business the most is really just our service. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't sell flowers. We're a service, and so the more we can understand that and make sure that our team understands that anybody can plant flowers, anybody can go to Lowe's or wherever and get the flowers, but we provide a design aesthetic to it, and then we provide this service. Whereas, when something is wrong with the flowers, we're out there to fix them. We're constantly going out and, like, even if we're just driving by in the neighborhood and we notice something isn't quite right with the flowers, we'll stop, even if there isn't a work order or whatever. It's just that level of service that we provide to them. So I would say that that is our biggest differentiator. Kind
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I know customer service is of the utmost importance, especially in this industry. I can imagine if I was an owner of some of your window boxes and you just kind of stopped in to say, hey, check in with me, want to go ahead and make some adjustments, I would be thrilled with that kind of service. So it sounds like you're down the right path for sure.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, people are always like, even when I'm like walking the dogs in my neighborhood, if I see a window box that doesn't look great, go ahead and schedule something for the team to go out and check it. And, and the customers are usually like, how did you even know? And, the office will generally be like, well, Brett was walking his dogs and he saw um, that this needed to be fixed. So.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that. And so it sounds like your entire team is pretty much trained up to understand, that you're mainly a service company, customer service first. Do you have like a specific sales team, or is it just kind of everybody all hands on deck all the time?
Well, actually, I mean, we have definitely his name's Patrick and he does all of our sales. Um, there's, there's Nick. Nick does our kind of inbound sales. He does all of the phone calls and that kind of stuff. Patrick does a lot of the estimating of it. But the whole team, they're incentivized to upsell, if there's a pot over on the ground, they want to make that suggestion that it matches all the flowers and stuff like that. And while I guess technically it is upselling, like I said, but it's still like providing that level of service so that everything is kind of cohesive across their whole house. And that's really something our customers value. So, like it is sales, but at the end of the day, I think that that's kind of not how we look at it. But yeah, we definitely do have a dedicated sales team.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so, what would you say? I mean, it sounds like you're really focused on that franchise market right now and expanding that. Would you say that that's your number one growth goal right now?
I mean, Cincinnati still has its own growth set or, goals. We tend to grow every year between 10 to 15%. So, that's still pretty solid here in Cincinnati. I don't actually know where the cap will be. People ask me that a lot, and there's not really another market that we can benchmark off of or another, company. So, I really, if we're serving 2,100 people right now, I really can't see how we couldn't get that to 4,000 or 5,000 in the Cincinnati market. I mean, there's 3.5 million people, I think, in the metro area, and So between businesses and residential, that doesn't seem like a big reach to get to 5,000 clients. And at that point, we'd probably be doing around $10 million in sales. So I don't really know where the, top of that market would be. But so I guess to answer your question about the franchising, it's like, I don't know, about half of the office's resources are spent on franchising right now. As that franchising market grows, I would anticipate we're going to be adding a lot more to it. But right now, about 70% of my time is spent on the franchising.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. You want to make sure you're in control of kind of also quality control. I'm sure that there's a lot of
Yeah.
that going on.
Yeah, yeah, constantly. Like, and the, one of the good things is so far all the franchisees that we've, um, accepted or added on, they've been really wonderful about understanding that, we don't have everything nailed down quite yet, and we're still it's been more of a partnership than, kind of a top-down push. So that's been really nice. Our first franchisee, Dave in Des Moines, he's owned 7 other franchises in his life. So he's been really great at being like, hey, you know, they've done this before in the past. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's awesome. Definitely good to have some good partnerships there.
yeah, yeah, it really has. But like we've really been fortunate, I think, in getting these great new franchisees now.
hmm Yeah, and one thing I'll say, and just talking to a lot of different businesses and people going through growth, is no company has it nailed down 100%. Everyone's figuring it out to a certain degree.
Yeah, I always that was one of the things I forget what one of the interviews somebody was asking me that and I was like, yeah, if anybody tells you that they know exactly what's going on, they're lying to you because every day I think that's what is being an entrepreneur is you problem solve and you figure things out every single day. Um, because there's never like a playbook or it just is what it is. You're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, perpetual state of trying to figure different problems out.
Right, right, always. So,
Well, awesome. Well, I mean, I want to dive into just a little bit about, technology. I'm sure as you've grown and scaled, you've had to implement some technology. You mentioned Salesforce as your CRM. Especially with the AI transformation that's going on right now. Is that something that you've also already implemented into your business, or where are you at with that?
so, yeah, so, well, I think we've always been kind of maybe, maybe more forward thinking in terms of IT and things like that, as opposed to maybe other like landscaping businesses, if that's where we would fall. But, you know, we have that custom built out CRM, Salesforce that's just built out for us. It does invoicing, routing, like tracking, inventory management, all kinds of stuff. And then every single truck, they in the morning when they load their trucks, they have their iPads. Each truck has an iPad. It's routed. They're taking pictures of every job so that we create those, um, you know, like files, like customer files, so that we can go back and reference that later on. Um, I really want an like a AI. And so we're kind of looking at that. I have the outline of what I would like, but we do not have that yet. We, as a company, we use ChatGPT, which is trained for us, and we recommend all of our franchisees that they get their own, ChatGPT thing, and then we have an AI trainer to plug into that so that it can kind of talk in the WoW speak in the WoW brand, so that they can do, Facebook posts or whatever kind of marketing or things like that that they need. But I would really like an app, and I'd really like that chatbot. And we want to call her Blossom when we make her, but we haven't. We're still working on it.
Yeah, Blossom's a great name. I think that that's a good vision to have to begin with for sure.
Yeah, so we'll
Mhm.
see. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, exactly. Time, resources, and just making sure it fits right with your company.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And so it sounds like you've done a really great job just keeping your customers happy, your team happy, and everything. I mean, how have you gone about just making sure, as the face of the company, the head of the company, making sure that all these moving parts are working together cohesively?
Hmm. Um, I mean, we're really lucky to have such a great, like, great team. That has been kind of, I think, one of the learnings I learned very early on was to make sure that we paid people like fair and, compensated them and then treated them with respect. And since then, you know, we've really built out this great team. I mean, everybody here refers other people, and so it's just really a great environment. Last year, we were nominated for the best places to work in Cincinnati, and you know, I think that is really there's such ownership and things like that that's it makes my job a lot easier because they kind of take on all of those roles by themselves, you know.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, 1,000%.
Everybody kind of steps up and takes responsibility around here. So there's really not a lot that I have to do to, I get to have my meetings with them and kind of tell them what I think we should be doing. And then for the most part, they implement it on their own, which is pretty amazing.
That actually speaks really highly of your leadership, I would say. Putting trust in the people that you've hired is sometimes can be hard to do as a business owner. And so the fact that you've been able to delegate and have people take ownership is really great.
Yeah, I mean, but that again, that was an early learning was I can't do it all as much as I want to. And you have to kind of like let go of the baby because, you've been developing this thing and growing it for so long. But at the end of the day, like I would go crazy trying to do it all. So I have to really trust them and they've really proven their trust. So that makes it really easy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you say makes you love what you do the most?
I would guess it would have to be so it's probably the same whether I love it or hate it. Like, it's probably the exact same answer, and I'm guessing it's the team. Because like I said, when the team is going really good, it's great. But every once in a while there's a bad crew member or team member that isn't so great and isn't jiving with the team, and that makes it just as like that can make it just as miserable as it does, or as you know, un- equally as miserable as it is positive, if that makes sense. Uh,
Yeah, no, that makes
when
sense.
when you have a good person. And then second, I guess would be like the creativity, whether that's actually planting flowers or, creative problem solving, and just a variety of things. So,
Hmm. Awesome. What would you say makes you the most excited for the rest of 2025 and then going into 2026?
I mean, for sure, the growth of the franchisees. I think that that is so cool to meet all these people that are really interested and that actually want to buy into our brand. Because I mean, that's pretty flattering, just in general, that that somebody would think that our company was like worth investing in. I guess having started this in my mom's garage with her, like it just never really seemed like a real company. Sometimes there's those like pinch me moments where you're like, oh, this is like a legit thing, we have an office and we have trucks and it's not like, just this fly by night thing. It's a real company. So yeah, yeah, probably that.
I'm sure mom's very proud.
She is, and she comes in and still has lunch with all the franchisees and talks to them, and so she's really excited about it. I told her we're gonna go to Des Moines to see the first Wow truck outside of Cincinnati, and she's really excited.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I lived in Des Moines for a couple of years, and so it's a great city. I can see how they would really thrive off of
Yeah.
this business concept.
It was my first time out there, and I was really impressed. It actually reminds me a lot of Cincinnati, which I I think I was expecting like flat and corn, and
Yeah,
and that was not it. Like it was really pretty, lots of trees, lots of lakes. But I was really surprised by. There seemed to be a lot more water than I ever thought there would be. But yeah,
yeah.
and it's hillier.
Definitely, definitely. The stereotype doesn't always match, kind of what you think of with Iowa.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So funny. Well, this has been so great. Just as a one last question, what's kind of some advice that you would give to someone else that's on a similar journey? Not necessarily with window boxes, but just kind of starting a company from ground up.
Earlier we talked about that. that not everybody knows what's going on, and you're constantly really trying to do that. You know, you're always trying to figure things out as you go. What's that saying? You're building the airplane as it's flying or whatever. And that I think that's really true. Um, it might look intimidating that other people, have their lives together, or it seems like they really, have this all figured out and it just comes easily, but it doesn't. And it's constantly trying to figure that out. And I think maybe those people, or maybe me or other business owners, maybe we put off this persona that we really have it together, but we generally don't. And so, I think knowing that is less intimidating for them. And, you can always fix it if it's not everything is, kind of set in stone. You can always go back and fix it. So,
Yeah, it's a great mentality to have. I love that. Well, where can people reach out to you if they'd like to go
yeah.
ahead and learn more?
So yeah, I mean, you can obviously go to our webpage, wowwindowboxes.com. We have Facebook marketing, all the social medias, so you can find us there. You can find me on LinkedIn, all that stuff.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thanks so much, Brett, for your time today. Really excited about what you're doing with your company and just growing nationwide at this point.
Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Good deal. All right, take care.
Thanks, you too.